Hi guys, and welcome back to another video. I know it's been a while and even these nails are old, but let's get stuck straight in. So this is a particularly cool kind of video because I've started trialing this new technique that really corrects the growth angle of nails that grow quite down and around the fingertips. And this again is my twin sister, and both of us have nails that grow really curved down around the finger, and so once they get anywhere past the fingertip, they're curving down. It's really inconvenient and not really that aesthetic either, especially when we're trying to get enough product on the nail to actually give it some support. Yeah, it's tricky. And they also don't grow out that nicely either. So I took a course with a fellow nail tech in New Zealand called Blush Education. That's her educator Instagram. And she taught me a cool new technique. It kind of mimics what dual forms do, but without having to use a dual form, because I've never really used them before and I then therefore don't have a lot of confidence with using them. So I wanted to trial out this way because I have a little bit more confidence. It does use a little bit more product that you kind of apply and then file away, which I still don't really know how I feel about, like, going forward. Is this something I'm going to offer all the time? Is this going to be an add-on, etc.? Who knows? But this transformation today in particular was super satisfying because they've gone from very, very curved and me not doing the most work to rebalance them that I could have done, to me doing the most work that I could have done to rebalance them. So just getting stuck in with taking off as much product as I can, especially through the center, because we don't need that anymore. It can go. So really rebalancing that nail and starting to take off some of the free edge length so that I don't have a whole bunch extra I have to do later, because basically this technique, we apply quite a lot of product to the free edge, and so like you can see, especially on those index fingers, just how far that nail curves down and around, and the lower it curves, the more product I have to add. So I kind of don't want to be applying more product than I need to. I've kept most of the stuff in. Prep is same as always. Anytime I cut, usually it's because I was completely out of frame. But now we're just going in and like pre-shaping the free edge, so she likes more of the oval shape. So I'm kind of just doing a really quick shape here rather than like a perfect shape. And to be fair, I probably could have been much quicker with the step than I actually was. But I'm a perfectionist, so I can't help myself. So just going through and shaping now. Before we get into the actual natural nail prep. I just had a little snack before I did this. I always sit down to edit this video, and it was popcorn. I feel like there's like a kernel stuck in the back of my throat, so hopefully it doesn't make me cough, because that doesn't go very well in a voiceover. So just going in now with Cutie Patootie, which is my favorite like first step cuticle bit. I'm using it with the Zippy. Around 8,000 RPM is my favorite. Between 7 and 8 literally just depends on the day, but also I do evaluate like how much built up tissue there is and like skin type and stuff. So if their skin is a little bit thinner and there's not as much build up, then I'll just go in with 7, and if there's a little bit more build up, I'll go in with 8. Something that people don't really talk about, especially with cuticle prep and RPMs, is the bigger the bit, the faster the outside of the bit is actually going. So like one cuticle bit running at 8,000 versus another may not be the actual same depending on the width. And A lot of cuticle bits are more like the itty bitty, which is this one now, which is really, really small. So because it has a really low circumference, it's not moving as quickly on the natural nail, or like where it's actually touching the nail, whereas the Cutie Patootie moves a lot faster. So I see people talking about using 10,000, more than 10,000 for natural nail prep, and honestly it's just really not necessary, and sometimes I think it overworks things a little bit. So I do actually go in with the same speed, so usually 7 for the itty bitty, but that is much slower and compared to the Cutie Patootie, because we've already done a lot of work with the Cutie Patootie. We're just doing some like final detail work getting into the corners, and then again with Buffy, which is a nice skin smoothing bit, I go in 4 to 5 RPM at most, and this just really smooths out any of that kind of dry tissue, any cuticle that's sitting up off the cuticle area. I will exfoliate that away. I choose not to trim cuticle with scissors or nippers because I am not trained. I don't have the confidence to do so, and I just simply don't feel confident to do it. And I actually kind of like the idea of just gently exfoliating rather than nipping. That's not to say that I think that nipping shouldn't be done. It's just how I personally choose to work. But everyone is allowed to educate themselves and choose their techniques that work for them and their clients, and that's totally okay. And so here I'm just going in with the sandy band now, removing any final lifting and really smoothing out that base, because I personally find when I've got a nice smooth base, all the product that I'm applying on top self-levels really nicely and everything stays nice and smooth. But when I kind of skip over this a little bit and I don't keep things as smooth at the base, then it makes my life a lot harder in terms of getting the product to self-level nicely, get the apex in the center, middle strip of the nail and all of that. So this is how I like to prep that nail plate, and I'm going in, this is the last prep step. So I often see as well people doing this first, or with a file first and then going in and doing their cuticle prep, and especially for Light Elegance, that's not really the steps you want to do, because your cuticle bits are going to smooth the nail more than what the file does, and so you might end up with some cuticle lifting. So if you have issues with lifting up around the cuticle and you have no idea why, you feel like you're doing the right steps, it literally might just be the order in which you're doing those steps. So definitely good to kind of look at. And now I'm double cleansing. I start with cleansing just with the brush because I find it gets all of the dust out of the sidewalls, and then I go in with the alley cleanser on an alley wipe to really clean that natural nail. We're going in with Air Bond, which is my favorite kind of priming step. It just is a really good prep product in conjunction with tack, which we're applying now, and really tack needs to be scrubbed into that natural nail as much as possible, really get into that texture that we've created in the prep steps to allow optimal adhesion, because we have created more surface area on the nail plate by putting the etching in. So the tack really needs to get into all of those grooves to do its job to the best of its ability, and this one cures for 30 seconds. So once that's been applied, that goes straight in the lamp. And now we're starting the hard gel application. So here it looks like I am using Clear Builder, which is one of my favorite quote unquote base hard gel products from Light Elegance. The reason why I treat it as a base is because it's much higher in viscosity, so I find that doing any structure is a little bit tricky, but its properties as a gel mean that it's flexible and has really great adhesion, so that lends itself to be a really good base. Now there's so many different products in the Lexy line range, which means you can really tailor a manicure to each individual client, their nail type, and their lifestyle. Cool, so now I'm going in with natural fiber, and this is the first step in creating that rebalanced free edge. So I'm kind of building like a wall of gel with my stripy brush and the natural fiber right on the free edge. I'm working really quickly because I'm trying to keep, especially the tip of the nail, that part of the gel, I don't want it to self-level at all. And then that hand's going in the lamp to flash cure. If it cures all the way, amazing, but it will get the full cure by the thumb for sure. But what this is doing is it's going to create a ledge that when I fill in the nail with like the product that I need, it's not self-leveling and pulling back away from the free edge. All gels tend to naturally pull away a bit and shrink a bit as they cure. And so if I was just going straight in with a dollop to build up that free edge area, it will definitely shrink away, and where I need the product to be its thickest, it won't be, because it will kind of level out and taper out at the free edge naturally. So this is why I'm going in. This is actually the first time I've ever tried this. So I'm kind of learning as I go. I also didn't want to take forever because my sister comes for her nails on the weekend, and usually after her I am done for the day. So, you know, the free time calls me, and yeah, I don't want to be sitting here all day. So I'm also kind of tailoring the amount or like the height of the wall to each nail, because some of them do curve more than others. I mentioned earlier the index fingers in particular really curve downwards. So this is where I'm building up a lot more product. And yeah, the natural fiber is really nice because it still looks like the natural nail underneath. So if your clients particularly like to boast that their nails are natural, or they want more of that natural look, they don't want to be able to see the color of the nail through the underside. And also it blends into the natural nail, because what we're going to end up doing is filing up from underneath, and at some point the natural nail is going to still be there underneath. So we don't really want to have this super obvious like join area where the gel kind of blends into the natural nail. We want it to look really seamless, so natural fiber really helps us do that. There's a few other Lexy lines in the natural colors depending on the preference like and viscosity that you like, but I thought fiber was really great as well for this application because it has a lot of extra strength. So what we're essentially turning this into is an extension without any natural nail support underneath, and fiber is one of the best gels for extensions because of that 10% fiberglass in the gel. So, you know, when you put all of those facts on the table, that is kind of what led me to choosing this, as well as it being it self-levels in a quite useful way. Like, it's not super self-leveling, but it kind of levels to a certain point and then just stops. It doesn't keep flowing unless you have used too much gel, and then in which case like it kind of keeps going because of it's like moving under the weight of itself. But basically what we're doing here is we're bringing up the top of the nail to be kind of mostly in line with where the cuticle area is, or that's like our goal. And it's more of like the Russian, European kind of apex structure. I don't really know what to call it, but like that is more of the look. So much less of a taper from the apex down, and actually it's more that the lower arches taper up to meet that free edge kind of point of the nail, rather than that from the apex it tapers down a lot and that lower arch is more straight. So we really need to build up that free edge. You can really see how putting that kind of wall on the edge of the gel helps a lot. I'm only applying a thin layer to help it self-level across the front 2/3, because the back I'm really trying to limit the amount of gel that gets applied in that back third. Our nails both naturally are really arched, not only like widthways with the C curve, but also front to back. So there's no benefit, aesthetic or structural integrity wise, I guess, to apply an apex in the traditional area that an apex would be applied, because our nails curve in that point. Like, it's almost like an inbuilt apex. So you do need to apply a little bit of product so we're not kind of making like a really front heavy kind of nail, but you know, just kind of keeping all of those like natural properties in mind, especially from an aesthetic point of view. If I keep building on that apex, the nail ends up looking, when it grows out, like what it did when it returned. So you might have noticed it's very, very curved and like very humped where the back third of the nail was, like even before the apex, because of that natural kind of growth. It just really like ends up being really, really tall and not very nice to look at all. And now I'm going in with Ideal Pink One Step, which is one of my favorite gels to create structure with. And I didn't even plan for this at the time, but this technique also all by itself created a French ombre for me. So I'm even going in here, wow, this is brave, and doing a couple nails at a time with the structure. Normally I would never do this. Normally I would just do one at a time. So let's see how quickly it changes from me doing more than one to just one at a time. I'll bet that this is actually because I'm applying so little of this Ideal Pink One Step that it doesn't have a lot of room to like flow, or like there's not a lot of weight to it, so it kind of just needs to self-level into itself and smooth out any kind of application kind of bumps from the brush, and then that's it. So that's pretty nice. But yeah, you can see the free edge is super bulky right now, but don't worry, we're going to be filing that soon, so after the step. But yeah, this is kind of just like, once all the gel is applied, it's nice to then go in and file, rather than filing a little bit and then applying more gel and then filing more. There's just not really an efficient way to do a service. We kind of want to keep all of the steps like streamlined from one another, so that's why we're just applying the Ideal Pink on top of everything else. Yeah, and I tend to go through phases of like what hard gel is my favorite in the Lexy line, but since this, like recording this set, I have had a little stint with really loving fiber for everything, and now I'm going back to really loving Ideal Pink again. So like all of my hard gel clients have their base is pretty much clear now, because I've been using just clear fiber for them, and now I'm about to change everyone back to Ideal Pink, because it's just, One Step is just such a nice product to work with. And then I find it's a little bit easier to know that the product is self-leveled when there's colour to the gel. I find it personally a little bit difficult to really see that I've got the structure that I want quickly with the clear. So that's why I choose to do the Ideal Pink instead of the clear. Unless someone really wanted, you know, that clear look rather than the Ideal Pink. So now what we're doing is I'm really filing that free edge at like a 45-degree angle to really lift it up. So I'm filing through the natural nail at that point and exposing a lot of the gel, and then I'm going through and finish filing. So it's just like an extra little bit of work on the free edge, but mixed into your normal finish filing routine, so not too bad. I am still, like as I said, this is the first time I actually tried doing a full set of this rather than just one or two nails on my own, so definitely still kind of working out the best approach and like how to file into that free edge to get the nicest kind of shape and nice and tapered and all of that stuff. So I don't have like a super fine-tune filing process for it yet, but I'm sure that after doing it a few times I definitely will kind of like lock and load that in. It's also really important to note that like the first time you do something like this, it's a lot more work, but then maintaining it is a lot less work. So I built up quite a lot on the free edge this time around, but if I was to keep up this kind of process and like rebalancing and getting that free edge nice and straight rather than curved, it would be less effort for me every time. Spoiler alert, I didn't do that. Unfortunately, because my sister is my sister, and in my brain that's a different kind of client. Sometimes we have to compromise on her appointment, like length, whatever. So I think the appointment after this, we had to work quite quickly. So I have let this go by the wayside, but actually she's due again and again on the weekend, which is literally tomorrow morning. So maybe after watching this, I'll be encouraged to give this a go again for her, because when you see the final product of this technique, like, this is even not like my best work, quote unquote, like I'm still just learning, but it's just such a difference. So just going through, obviously cleaning the nails before we're filing, and really locking in that shape. So what this is actually looking like at the moment underneath is pretty scary, because there's no C-curve from the free edge, like it's all just product at this point. Really chunky and bulky, like super thick, but we will go through and fix this afterwards. So right after this step where I've finished filed, I go in and I will carve out that C-curve again and make that nail nice and thin and sleek. I think in hindsight I would do just the finish filing on the free edge first, then go in and carve out the C-curve, then come back through over the top and do the finish filing over the top, just because I know that carving out the C-curve kind of does impact on that free edge a little bit. Like, it's not, sometimes you kind of catch the free edge a little bit, or like if your client moves or whatever, so if you need to then like smooth it out again, you're kind of backtracking in steps a little bit. So just to kind of keep everything moving forward and nice and efficient, while also giving a nice result. That's kind of like, I guess, what my approach would be now. So this one in particular, you can kind of see like from the side angle just how much I kind of filed up and underneath. I do find it's kind of funny, and I mean, I'm not immune to this, like I'm literally exactly the same, and this is why I refuse to let anyone else do my nails, but I'm a terrible client because I can't relax. Like, even if I'm at the physio or whatever, like it's just not gonna happen. Like, they try to do their things and I just won't relax, and my sister is exactly the same, so I do have to encourage her to relax and move her hands so that I'm not struggling too much with filing. And now you can see that we flipped her hand over, and I'm going in with this smaller bit designed specifically for this purpose, to carve out that C-curve underneath. And you can see like her natural nail is completely gone from that index finger, like all the way back as far as I could file. So just really carefully going through and doing that. And we do have to do that on both sides, but unfortunately I didn't think I got the best footage of that, unfortunately. So now I'm just going through and fixing up that free edge again, like I mentioned, just making sure it's all nice and smooth and there's no like little notches or anything, which I accidentally still put in a little bit when I am filing under there, because I'm still just getting used to that kind of those angles and things, and I do I do sometimes affect the shape. And now look at these beautiful nails. Freaking stunning. So I started doing the art on her nails, and I forgot that I like to apply Power Bond. But look how gorgeous they are, just like this. It would really look lovely just with a top coat curing and then sending them out the door, or like a thin shimmer. possibilities are endless, and it's just really nice, I think, that like the French ombre just naturally gets created from this step, or those steps. So by using natural fiber, you're also kind of adding that in for yourself, which is super nice. But now I'm going in with Power Bond, which is my favorite like prep base product, to re-add that inhibition layer back on to the nail, because I was doing hand painting and I needed a bit smoother of a surface than what the like buffed filed surface was for doing the finished filing. So I started painting and then was like, oh no, and then had to wipe it off and then going with the Power Bomb, which is why I didn't start with the pinky, because the pinky was still wet from the cleanser. And as you saw at the start of the video, we're doing egg nails. I was obsessed with these nails. They are so fun, so up my alley. I like doing like quote unquote weird stuff. I don't really know how to explain it, but like pretty nails always, like glittery nails, amazing. But like putting things on people's nails that you would never expect to go on people's nails, sign me the heck up. Sign me up. And so right now I'm just painting like the white of the egg, and I'm trying to change the placement around a bit, as well as like the kind of distribution of white, so that we've got a lot of interesting things going on. And the way that I choose to do this is actually start with mostly a circle and then add a little bit extra, because you know, when you crack an egg into a pan, I feel like they're a little bit more like visually identified when they're not like that perfect white. So I'm kind of starting with a circle and then adding that extra like blob out the side, and that's how I've also kind of been maintaining that, like, okay, this egg is here, like kind of distribution of different like placements across the nail and variation. I also find that sometimes I'm like tend to paint things too small, so this is also what I'm doing here, is making sure that I'm painting it across like enough of the nail. And now I'm going in with Sunbum, which is an old colour gel from Light Elegance, and it's one of my all-time favourite colours. Perfect egg yolk colour, but because the colour gel formula is a bit thicker, it was created to be able to be applied just that little bit thicker, because yeah, when Light Elegance first was created, acrylic was still a really big thing, and techs used to acrylic. We're used to applying a bit thicker, so they formulated to kind of keep that in mind. Like, I'm not saying that you should put a massive dollop of colour gel on the nail, but you can get away with just a little bit extra dimension. And now I'm adding in She's a Coppercat, which also an amazing colour. Unfortunately, both are discontinued, but just to add a little bit more like yolk shadow, yolk dimension to the eggs, which I really think made a big difference. And now I'm going in with the little fluff and a little bit of primary black, and I'm adding pepper. I'm adding pepper, guys, to the eggs. So freaking good. And now I'm going in, oh yep, now we have the other hand again. I kind of figured, you know, the eggs are pretty repetitive. You don't really need to see me paint 10 eggs, so we'll cut a little bit and we'll just watch the 5. And then I just wipe off the little fluff at the end. So I take the black from the top of the jar rather than the tub, just to get a little bit right on the end of the bristles, and that's how you get those nice like little tiny dots, specks on the nail. And that's also really good for like speckled eggs. That technique is really useful for any sort of like speckly kind of a look. And now I'm going in with Extreme, and we are adding 3D yolks to the nail. So I'm releasing a dollop and then doing what I call tornadoing, which is basically just swirling the dollop up and out to give it some height, and then allowing that Extreme to kind of settle a little bit so that the top will flatten, and then it's going to look like that yolk shape. And this just really made it like that, alongside with putting that orange on like for some shading in the yolk. Oh my goodness, these nails, I mean, I should have really clipped some of the audio from these, because They're so fun, and yeah, we just were obsessed with them. Like the noises that I was making and like the giggles and stuff were just so funny, because yeah, this is just, I don't know why, this is just like what makes my world go round with nails. So just applying super shiny now, and I'm just being careful not to apply too much around the yolk so that we still have definition, and then I'm going back through and making sure that nothing's really pulled too much there before it goes in the lamp, and then it goes for 60 seconds. Now I'm going through and wiping with LA cleanser. I wait a little bit before I cleanse super shiny because it needs to cool down after it comes out of the lamp, so I have like a little process that I do for that. But yeah, just really like making sure to clean off all of that inhibition layer to leave them nice and shiny. And now the hot towel, which usually is a very exciting thing for my clients after they've been sitting and their hands have been dry and getting a little bit cold. We warm them up again, add some moisture back with the hot towel, and it's also a really nice way to help the moisturizer like really wick into the skin as well. So just a nice little addition, make the appointment feel a little bit more luxurious, but also helps me remove any extra dust or anything off their hands as well. So it's a win-win all round. Love a hot towel, one of the best parts of the appointment, and obviously always finishing off with that LA Cuticle oil to get the nails nice and nourished again, add in any moisture that might have been lost with the cleansing, and then once more buffing. So we get super shiny nails, there's no kind of oily residue, and we get that super shine out of the super shiny, ready for our pictures and videos. And here is the reveal. Look how cool the eggs are. The 3D, oh man, I miss these nails. It was so sad when I had to remove them. Just a little bit of 3D to kind of like partake in the trend, and you can see just how different that side profile is as well. And here is the final look. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you next time.